Hello, folks. Today in this video, we will talk about forEach method of JavaScript arrays, which is actually a loop. Before we start coding, let's examine what various sources say about this method. In the book of ES6 tutorials, they say, forEach method calls a function for each element in the array, and they also included an example for this method. Now in the book JavaScript, the Definitive Guide, David Flanagan says, the forEach method iterates through an array, invoking a function you specify for each element. You pass the function as the first argument to forEach. forEach then invokes your function with 3 arguments: the value of the array element, the index of the array element, and the array itself. If you only care about the value of the array element, you can write a function with only one parameter. The additional arguments will be ignored. It's enough of books, isn't it? Now let's do some coding. First, let's create an array. Populate it with some values. Store it in a constant and name it values. Now here, instead of forEach method, we can also use for loop as well. But as you can see, it makes our code too noisy and ugly. Compare to this. When you see forEach method, you will love it. Now let's implement the forEach method. Let's call our values array and pick forEach method. As you can see, this method expects a function as its first argument, and this function can have 3 arguments. Here we only care about array items, so we are picking the item. Now before we go any further, let's create a let to store the new result. So here in our forEach method, we are summing values of our array and then storing it in our sum variable. We are done here. Now let's see our result in the console. So, console.log of sum. Now let's refresh the browser. Amazing. As you can see, here is the sum of our array items. Now let's compare this approach to for loop. You can notice that how noisy this code becomes. Let's type the name of our array and do our calculation. Now let's save the result and refresh the browser. As you can see, we have the same result, but with more code and complexity. We have reached the end of another video. If you liked it, hit the subscribe button and give us a beautiful thumb. See you next time.